Good morning to our esteemed viewership. This is the Focus on Parliament show on Civic Space TV, brought to you by the Center for Constitutional Governance. My name is Kwagala, and I'm your host today. Now, the Parliament, our legislative arm, the temple of democracy, once again has been caught in the crosshairs. This time round coming on the backdrop of a very significant development. The leader of opposition, the Right Honorable Matthias Mpunga, about 4 weeks ago, ordered his troops out of Parliament on the account of the government's failure to account for the numerous and persistent human rights violations, including abductions, torture, and also the shrinking of the political space. Now, joining me is a panel of distinguished people. Mr. Brian Atuhaire is a political activist. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank
and
you.
Also, Mrs. Charity Ahimbisibwe. She's the Executive Director for the Electoral and Governance Institute. Our topic for discussion is functioning of the 11th Parliament, a case of boycotting MPs versus the rules. Now, to help us understand this crisis in Parliament, I want to begin with you, Mr. Brian. The Right Honorable Leader of Opposition, Matthias Mpunga, yesterday emphasized that the protest by the opposition MPs is still on, up until the point that the government comes out and explains its human rights record and provides sufficient accountability for the numerous human rights violations that have been leveled against it. What can you say about this whole situation? Do you think this course of action for the opposition is justified?
First of all, the crisis is not in Parliament only. Our country is in crisis. Our country is the whole country is in crisis. And Ugandans like debating these things in piecemeal. Today Parliament, tomorrow Cabinet, about thieves, now Parliament boycotting, tomorrow the workers disappear somewhere, but money disappears there. Like, our country is in a crisis. And I don't want to discuss opposition MPs and government MPs, because to be opposition it's out of a democratic process. Those MPs that they are saying are now activists. They want by activism to be in that parliament, by force actually, against the state. Their win, being in parliament, is these 18 lost people are lost because they won elections. Or because they forced themselves and defeated the state. So, but the state, in reacting that these MPs don't win, people had to be killed and others disappear. We are talking about 54 killed in Kampala. That's the number the government gave us itself in its report. They killed 54 people in that process. Now 18 are still lost. Others are maimed. Others are injured. Others don't have eyes. Others don't have legs. Others are in hospitals. Now, in such a country, to be a member of parliament as a result of that and go to parliament and behave as if things are normal, you actually are abnormal. Actually, these MPs had delayed. This was supposed to be done as early as when they sworn in. 3 years down the road now, they are telling us, yes, we can listen to them, but they delayed. I support them. Actually, they should not be only boycotting. They should be holding rallies every day to tell people what is happening. Hold physical and peaceful protests with their supporters, demanding for their people, holding rallies, so that the government actually accounts. Them being passive, if the speaker thinks that them being passive is dangerous, they are not that dangerous. I want them to go, I want them to say, this guy was living in this village. They moved to the village, address a rally in that village, and assure them, because this boycott, they shouldn't just boycott within the corridors of parliament. Let them boycott in the constituencies. That's what I will support. So parliament is not a crisis, no. Our country is in a crisis. Cabinet is in a crisis. The judiciary is in a crisis. Parliament is also in a crisis. Everybody in your home, the economy and how we move on the roads, we are in a crisis. And solve it, everybody must play their part. the MPs are playing their part, but they are not playing it fully. It's half. They have more obligations to do. And to talk about rules, laws, what? Who follows the rules? The minister, the cabinet promised members of parliament that after 30 days they'll bring a report on the missing persons. The speaker should be pushing government to say, you promised us. Yeah, inclusive. Now, the speaker has become a member of cabinet. She's defending cabinet. Yes, she'll be defending parliament. So what the speaker is doing is very irregular. Herself is not following the rules.
But Mr. Brian, yesterday in plenary, there is a whole section of MPs, especially those leaning with the government, the majority party in parliament.
There's no majority and minority, sir. We have the oppressed and the oppressed and
no, in strict legal and political terms.
No, there's not
the majority party.
No, we don't have roles in Uganda.
The majority party in parliament.
We're all this country. That's why General was campaigns in military fatigue, and we haven't talked about him. We have no law.
Members of the NRM parliamentary caucus yesterday criticized this action, saying, number one, that they do not agree with it because the legislators are primarily elected to discharge business in parliament. But also, secondly, they are of the view that this is a matter which can be escalated and resolved outside the confines of parliament. What have you got to say about that?
So you're saying the cabinet has a right to come to parliament and elect members of parliament. That's what you're saying. You're saying that, yes, the minister said the government promised 30 days they will produce the report. That's what you're saying. But then the report is not there. Now that one is no longer the issue now. So cabinet ride parliament. Instead of the speaker becoming tough on cabinet to bring the report they promised, she's leaning to cabinet. And let me tell you something. Regimes like this one, there is nothing like a legislator of the majority party, as you want to call it. They are just puppets of the ruling, not even of the ruling party. They are puppets of the military junta. So if you become a puppet of the military junta, we can't listen to you. Your words are either coercion, and you know, NRM has very few supporters. I can tell you there are three types. There are three types. One, they are those ones who are looking for money. Those are those MPs. They are those ones who are ignorant. The majority who are in the villages, who don't know how countries move and how things move. Thirdly, we also have tribalists who support them because of tribalism. And therefore, if you have the result of this is such a parliament, such a side saying such things, some of them don't even feel, they feel that if the people in Uganda, it is okay. Tomorrow, injustice anywhere, anytime they reach to them, tomorrow they will come to Kanunga and kidnap people. When Besija contested and people are killed in Rukunjiri, some people are saying it's okay. Those people of Rukunjiri and Kanungu and Kwagala, just a problem. Now the problem is massacre. We can't discuss these things in piecemeals. Let's discuss the whole of it. That's why Mao was saying national dialogue, but it must be structured. But and again for Mao to have said that he negotiated the release of people. How do you negotiate the release of a criminal whom you have arrested as a criminal for 18 months? Why don't you prosecute him, take him to court? And you call yourself Minister of Justice. That's hopeless.
But it's the opposition that is clamoring for the release. But just hold it there. Let me first bring in Mrs. Charity.
No, we are saying they must be. Where are they, first of all? If they have a case, bring them to court. They're not saying release them. We are saying, can you say he has this case? Can he go to this court? Can you dispense justice to him? They are 3 years. Yes. We're not saying just release them. No. If they are criminals, let them, because even criminals, even terrorists are taken to court.
So in other words, even as you clamor for the ultimate outcome, you want them to follow the due process of the law.
If the prosecution thinks they were wrong, they should be brought. I'm not saying they are wrong. They are innocent until proven guilty. Not the other way around. Now what they have done, and I know some of them I think have been killed. That's why they can't account for them. Some of them could have been killed. We are in another mini era.
Charity, as an observer of the Uganda political landscape, watching the unfolding developments in parliament, especially in an era where there is general consensus that the political class, the ruling political elite that governs this country, has oppressed the opposition to the limit, and it has clogged every avenue for maybe potential dialogue or interaction, face-to-face interactions. What comes to your mind when you witness the unfolding events in Parliament? Do you think the cause of the opposition in declaring a boycott from plenary is justified, and do you think it can achieve any tangible results?
So I want to think about this from the standard. As much as Brian is saying, so what about the rules? So what about the law? I want to say, yes, we need laws, we need rules, we need a standard. And the speaker seemed to tell us that she's convinced that Rule 112 is what was flaunted by the opposition members of parliament. But I want to respectfully disagree. And the reason I respectfully disagree are three things, and I think Brian has hinted on them. One, the issue that led the opposition out of parliament is a human rights issue. It is a justice issue. It is a rule of law issue. If it wasn't justice, and it wasn't a rule of law, or even a human rights issue, then we could easily bundle it up into a political rally between the opposition and the government. But when it is an issue of human rights, it is an issue that every state that purports to follow democracy and democratic principles should be concerned about. Why? Because states are gauged on their level of human rights respect across the globe. There are index reports that show that every state has a way it has respected human rights or not respected human rights. Now, when it comes to the question of justice and the question of the rule of law, it is that you have rules, you have regulations, you have the law. What does the law say? Anybody who is arrested in Uganda will be produced where? In court.
Within 48 hours.
And they will be tried for whatever crime they have committed. That's a question of justice. And the law doesn't say it will only apply for NRM, not the opposition. It doesn't say that. The law says every citizen. Article 28 gives them a right to a fair hearing. Who had the side of the 18 who are missing? Who even knows where they are? When President Museveni took over power in 1986, he said, look, I'm not going to be like all the past presidents. Nobody in Uganda will go unaccounted for. That was his promise. It is his words. You can go and play back his videos and his promises. This was a promise. A man is as good as his words. That's what the Bible says in Proverbs. That if you make a promise, you're as good as your word. But even if we went off the Bible and we went back to the law, what does the law then envisage for people who are arrested? Arbitrary arrests are illegal in Uganda. When you are arrested, you're supposed to be told why you are arrested, who is arresting you, and what the crime is. All crimes in Uganda are defined in the penal code. That's why I said, for me, I'm interested in starting with the law. The standard. What's the standard? The penal code defines what a crime is and defines the punishment for the crime. So whoever it is, since we've not had the crime of the 18 people, we don't know what crime they committed. And since we have not had the penalty of the 18 people, we don't know where they are. Therefore, the government should come and account for those 18 people. This is what the opposition is saying, and that is why they moved out of parliament. Now, when we focus on the ping pong between the Speaker of Parliament and the opposition, it is completely uncalled for. Why? The Speaker is just supposed to be a referee of Parliament. Yes, she's an administrator. Yes, she's a manager. But did she overstep her powers, okay, of managing that house? And in my humble view, she did. Why? She's supposed to have written to each of those members and alerted them that I'm going to get rid of you because of X, Y, and Z. But even the X and Y and Z was not existent. Article 29 allows for a citizen of Uganda, an ordinary citizen, not even a member of Parliament, to protest, and to protest peacefully if you are disgruntled about the way government is governing you. You are allowed. You have that right. So if they say they were exercising their constitutional right, beyond just being a member of Parliament, I'm exercising my constitutional right, isn't she infringing on their rights by telling them you cannot be in Parliament? Secondly, each of these members of Parliament represent a constituency, okay? A constituency has a number of people. They could be 170,000. They could be 2 million. There could be 3 million for each of the constituencies. Let's think about each of the members of Parliament who has kept away and how much they represent, how many people they represent. All those are voices that are saying, where are the 18 or so missing people? And that should not be a place for only the opposition. It should be a place for every Ugandan. The law says your brother's keeper is you. You will do everything reasonable not to harm your neighbor. When Cain killed Abel, they asked Cain, where is Abel? Could he answer God? And this is what we are saying. Where is Abel? We are asking the state, where is Abel? We want to know. Where did he go? That's it. Come and account for them in whatever fashion you want. Produce them in court. Give a report. Say something to the family. Don't keep quiet because people are at pains. That is where this is the genesis of the impasse between the Speaker and the opposition members of Parliament. So if the Speaker then respects what the opposition members of Parliament are doing, if in any twinge of herself she believes in human rights or she believes in the rule of law, then how does she find it within herself to expel members who are standing for the rule of law, who are standing for justice, and who are standing for human rights?
There are voices who are making the argument that this is a political issue, substantially. And as such, in their judgment, they think Parliament is the wrong forum to have this issue resolved. What would be your take on that?
Of course, the voices that are raising this are saying this is a question of the executive. But the way our government is structured, and even the Speaker herself said, oh, no, now these members of Parliament are attacking me, and yet for me, it's not about me, it's about the executive. Let them take their protest to the executive, not the Parliament. And she was saying, for me, as the head of Parliament, I prefer when every member of Parliament is present in Parliament because the opposition members have a critical role they play in the House. And the only way I can get them to come back to the House is by cracking the whip. Now, you could sympathize with her on that ground. But I had started at a point of where I was telling about the structure of government. We have the executive, we have the judiciary, and we have the legislature. Each of these arms, in scholarly views of Montesquieu and all the people, Jacques Rousseau, they're supposed to be independent, which they are not. What we have in Uganda is checks and balances for each of the three arms of government. But we also have an arm of government that is stronger than the other arms. And we in Uganda here know which arm is stronger than the other. So when the Speaker says now, do not address these issues in Parliament, they should be addressed elsewhere. I am a member of Parliament. I've brought the discussion on the floor of Parliament, such that I cause my constituents and Ugandan citizens to have conversation where else should I cause this conversation? On TVs? On radio? In marketplaces? Will I get justice from TV? Will I get justice from radio? Will I get justice from marketplaces? No, because TV, radio, and marketplaces do not wield the power. The person who wields the power, I have said, are three arms. It's the executive, it is the legislature, and it is the judiciary. So Parliament can cause the executive to come and account, which is what Brian said. Brian said the minister was supposed to come and produce a report within 30 days. So if they haven't produced, can Parliament continue to demand for the report? If they can't, can Parliament sit down and document and say, we gave the executive 10 months to produce a report about the 18 missing persons. They did not produce the report. And for that matter, as the institution, as Parliament, we have now decided this, we wash our hands like Pontius Pilate. This is not our issue. It is an issue of the executive, and it will be up to them to account to Ugandans. Let's have the members come back to the House. Wouldn't that be a better approach?
Brian, before I bring you back, this week we've seen the Speaker in Parliament make certain, serious pronouncements with respect to this issue. I just want to cite one. She says that if the opposition sustains this boycott, their protest action, by not coming to Parliament, it has the potential of paralyzing parliamentary business and therefore adversely impacting on the collective mandate of Parliament to deliver to the people. Do you think the Speaker is justified in that reasoning?
Yes, she is. She is. When you look at Parliament as an institution, her argument is valid. Because Parliament as an institution is not only for the NRM members of Parliament. It can proceed the way it has been proceeding without the opposition members of Parliament. But that doesn't mean she doesn't feel the pinch. She does. Why? Because the opposition members of Parliament sit on committees. Opposition is not just there in Parliament for fun. Opposition is in Parliament to check government. It is in the rules of procedure. Opposition is in Parliament to read policies and provide alternative policy. It is in the rules of procedure. So if she doesn't say that, then she doesn't know her institution. But because she understands the institution, she understands how the institution runs, she has made her point, and that one, she's credible.
Brian, you are a political activist of national stature and considerable acclaim. In the context of our political dispensation, I think we are at crossroads as a country.
I've always been.
In the most recent, I think it's now more pronounced, though. Your own party, the FDC, has been significantly polarized.
No, it has been erased.
It is erased now.
Yes.
Well, the DP, as we all know, entered into a cooperation agreement with the ruling party, the NRM. So it is difficult to, assess it independently as a standing party on its own. Nope is, I think, amidst many fires, as you know, both in Parliament, outside Parliament. There is a whole, plethora of other parties, but some of those could be significant. Now,
UPC is with Museveni.
There is UPC, it is with Museveni, so you say. So, the question is, what is your assessment of the opposition's capacity to galvanize unity over such a serious issue, especially one that pertains to the broader Ugandan public? And do you think they will be able to realize the main objective of this protest action?
You see, I want to answer the question, but before I answer it, there's something else that I saw yesterday in Parliament, members of NRM saying that they have brought activism into Parliament, and he also added that they are making it political. There is nothing wrong with making this issue political or being an activist. They award themselves as convinced that they are barrack activism and being a politician. Parliament is occupied by politicians who play politics on both sides. And therefore, you can't remove activism and Mandela was an activist. Winnie Mandela was an activist. actually it's better to be an activist than to become a politician. They're just becoming politicians who don't have, but also there's nothing wrong with becoming an activist or being a politician or taking activism in parliament. Malema has been jumping over tables, but I've not heard that EFF members in South Africa are getting lost. But what I've asked about opposition, opposition is not parties. It's not, FDC has been taken by M7. That's what I believe in.
So you are partyless as we speak right now?
No, but I'm opposition.
Are you in the virtual?
No, but I'm
You
opposition.
are part of the large opposition.
So opposition is the people.
The idea.
It's the idea. It's not some headquarter here at Skia or some headquarter in Kurambiro or in Chisoro. No, you as a leader in Chisoro can leave opposition. You can even sell out. But the spirit of the people can never sell out. That's the challenge Museveni always have. Okay, now you come and buy Beatrice Sanywa, but you don't know when the musician can become a politician. When he was buying the Beatrice Sanywa, was buying all these people he has bought and taken into NRM and incorporated and done everything. He never thought that actually there would be a noob by this today. He thought if he gets Beatrice Sanywa from FDC, gets Beth Kamya, gets whoever he got, gets Chibanzanga, he's done with FDC and therefore done with opposition. No, tomorrow he can even buy a noob. He can even buy the parties like he wants to do. Or he can buy all of them into cooperation agreements and later incorporate into NRM. But the opposition is the people. What hurts us will not stop because our leaders have been bought. Amongst us, we shall go to other leaders and lead ourselves into liberation. Even leaders can die, leaders can knock. So saying that about even these parties they are buying, he hasn't bought any party wholesomely. He buys a section of the party, others refuse.
You see, there are certain sections of the opposition who have defied the call by the leader of opposition to join in the protest action. Yesterday, we saw members on TV emphasize their readiness and willingness to stay in parliament and participate in the plenary.
Who are they?
I should ask you.
Nandara Mafara. What is that choosing to do of these days? Eating Museveni's money. Because you see, you want to say they are opposition. No. Actually, there are people, like my member of parliament, I committed against him, he's NRM, but he was on TV saying, we must account for these people. He doesn't agree with his NRM fellow members. And he's called the Rebel MP because he's seen as opposition, even on ground. Now, Mafari is being accused of eating Museveni's money. And he's on saying, I can see in parliament even if people are lost. So literally, he's a leopard in a goat's skin. He's a leopard. He's a leopard but in a goat's skin. So anytime he will grab the sheep and the goats, and therefore, and you can let's differentiate these things. A snake is a snake, whether young or old.
Wow. That's quite interesting. So, yes, Charity. Yesterday, the speaker made very strong pronouncements with respect to the boycott. She says she has the authority to direct that the opposition members of parliament who are undertaking the protest action stay away from also the other parliamentary responsibilities, including attending of committee sittings and participation there. She has also said that they should not be considered in her directive to the clerk for the forthcoming trips in respect of the East African Parliamentary Games. There are mixed reactions to this directive by the Speaker. The Right Honorable Matthias Mpunga, the leader of opposition in Parliament yesterday, came out to strongly dispute the constitutionality of that directive, saying the Speaker is overstepping her bounds. Her purview and mandate does not empower her to make such a directive. There are also constitutional and other human rights lawyers who have come out strongly to criticize the Speaker for being dictatorial and an absolutist in that respect. What's your view?
Precisely what I said, that now the speaker looks like she does not respect human rights. She does not respect the rule of law. She does not respect justice. So what is she doing in the chair? She's an emblem of what? If you can't be an emblem of the rule of law, if you can't be an emblem for justice, if you can't be an emblem for human rights, then what are you? It's what she needs to tell us. So, and Matthias Mpuga has told you she has gone ultra via. Being ultra via in the legal sense of it is when you act beyond your mandated powers. There are two things we have to look at the speaker for. A speaker is supposed to be balanced at all times. A speaker is supposed to be measured at all times. A speaker is supposed to glide like the political animal you are. You glide on both sides. You can glide this side or glide the other side. But the choice on where you glide is pushed by the general will. There's what we call the general will of the people. That is why you talk about Article 1. The power belongs to the people. What do the people want? What do the people think? If an issue, you are confronted by an issue, you start by asking, what is the general will? Glide according to the general will. Do not glide according to sentiments. Do not glide according to political affiliation. What does the Constitution say? And listen in carefully. What is it saying to you? Because she's there as a constitutional element. This is an institution. Parliament is an institution of the Constitution. The Constitution establishes it in Article 79. It is an institution of the Constitution. The Constitution remains the grand norm. It is the bar for which she's supposed to act. So if you find yourself acting outside the grand norm, you understand at that point of gliding, which I was telling you about, that you're beginning to go wayward. So what Matthias was saying, you may take the trips, you can refuse us from going to the East African Games. It does not take away the fact that the 18 people are still missing. And is he right? Does the public agree? We can leave that to the public to debate. The truth is, he's right. And the public would debate and tell you, he's telling you, all he wants is an accountability report. Now, does she have the power to take away trips? Yes, because she's the one who sanctions trips. Does she have the power to do what? To stop them from attending plenary? I don't think so. Why? Because they are not there on her will. They are there on the will of the people.
Her directive is to the effect that now that they have resolved not to attend and participate in plenary,
yes,
as a result of their collective protest action, they should also accordingly stay out of the committee business.
That directive does not hold water in as far as who sent them to Parliament. Who sent Matthias to Parliament? Who sent Joyce Kwagala to Parliament? Who sent all the other opposition members to Parliament? It was the citizenry. It is them who can choose to pull them out through a vote. The speaker is only supposed to manage them while they are there. She can punish an individual member. She cannot take a massive action against the members and says, you have all kept away. You are now disrespectful of me. Do they have a reason? Because even the rule of procedure, when you read that rule 112, which she's talking about, because Brian is saying, so what about the rules? The truth is, there is the politics. There is the rules and there is the politics. There's a time when rules, norms, laws do not apply and the politics supersedes the rules and the laws. But even politics plays within a domain of the rules. Let's go back to the rules. What do the rules say? Under exceptional circumstances, the members can keep away. Could this be one of the exceptional circumstances?
Would you qualify it as such?
I would. I would. It's exceptional. Why? One, they have been asking for accountability for 2 straight years. They have not got that accountability. They have no more ammunition left in their artillery. Time for election is coming. They are politicians. The members of the public are going to ask them, you went to parliament and went to bed with people who could not account for our relatives. You expect us to send you back? So they have to make a political statement, and it is at that point of gliding that the speaker knows these ones are gladiating here, government is gladiating here. So where do I play my card from as a moderate person, a person of balance? When do I balance the ship of the politicians who are thinking about the electorate and government, which is still thinking about accountability for people who have gone missing? Because there is a human rights record to defend. There is a human rights record to defend. And the best thing to do here, because she's the administrator, she has taken this decision as the manager of parliament. She has not just taken it as the speaker of parliament, but as the manager of parliament. As a manager, when do you crack the whip? When do you not crack the whip? Do you always have to crack the whip when there's a protest? Can you wait for the protest to end and crack the whip and you're not misread in the midst of a protest? As a manager in my organization, would I sack every employee who says, we have not showed up to work because it was raining this morning, so 15 of them didn't show up, and the next morning I say, you're all sacked, I'm recruiting new ones? There are rules to how you sack me.
Before
you just don't wake up.
Before we scrutinize the rules, Brian, I want to ask a follow-up question. Do you think the directive of the speaker casts doubt on her judgment and capabilities to discharge the mandate of her office?
The speaker finds herself in a very delicate place. I don't want to be the one who brings doom and spell on herself. But the deputy speaker of parliament had opted to have dialogue. And he was having silent conversations with these people. In Tanzania, when Samia Suluhu had just taken over power, the opposition was quite oppressed. The opposition hardly had a way of speaking. And Suluhu was aware that her predecessor did not give these people a chance. Being that she had come on a ticket where she said she was to promote the rule of law. Remember I told you, for me, what is important is for us to gauge the parameters are rule of law, it's human rights, it is justice. She came in to promote the rule of law. And she said, as much as the opposition was not allowed to play fairly with the Chama Cha Mapinduzi, who is the powerhouse, I will now allow the opposition to come on table because they too have a say in their country called Tanzania. And she has lived with them since she came. Is there something drastic which has changed in Tanzania? Is it that Tanzania has gotten burnt down because Samia Suluhu sat with Tundu Lissu and talked over the issues that Tundu has been talking and shouting over a period of time? Has Tundu lost a number of teeth in his mouth, been beaten and done all sorts of things by previous leaders who could not listen to him? And Samia said, no, I have given you leeway, and is Tundu behaving the same way? Therefore, your approach as a leader matters. And the deputy speaker had taken a good approach. His approach was dialogue. And I think his approach would yield more fruit than authoritarian approach, which is being wielded by the speaker. As to how it ends with authoritarianism vis-a-vis dialogue, we can only wait to see. The truth of the matter is nobody appreciates authoritarianism. Even this government, every time they come out very hard to be extremely authoritative, people push back in the midst of difficulty. We can only wait to see.
Brian, let us examine the rules. Article 83 of the Constitution provides that when a member of parliament for 15 continuous sittings absconds from plenary, then they are liable for dismissal. Under Rule 112 of the rules that govern parliamentary business, we see that the Speaker has the authority to submit after an investigative process, actually to submit to the committee, the disciplinary committee of Parliament on rules and discipline and privileges, the name of a member of Parliament who has absconded from plenary for 15 successive sittings. Now, in the instant situation that we are faced with, we see the Speaker coming out heavily to defend her powers and justify them by invoking both provisions of the Constitution and the parliamentary rules of procedure, respectively. Whereas on the other hand, the opposition members of Parliament say that the Speaker is misconstruing the rules. They say that in order for her to invoke the specific Rule 112 of the Rules of Parliamentary Procedure, that she's got to first, write.
Correct.
Individually.
Correct.
All the affected members.
Correct.
And then they are supposed to provide some sort of justification as to why
Correct.
they have stayed away from plenary.
Correct.
And then, on the basis of that, it is when she's supposed to submit the names to the relevant disciplinary committee.
Correct.
To investigate, reach a finding, a resultant conclusion, and then action should be taken on the matter. What do you make of this whole process? Do you think the Speaker's judgment is justified, or rather, it is the judgment of the affected members of Parliament?
You have talked, I don't care about that process as a person. Because there's no process in Uganda to follow. First of all, do you know the panel that have been suspended from, expelled from Parliament because of that? I know Chipoi, who was accused of having guns against himself. I also know General David Nyefuzi, who was an exile and over same matters. But I also have evidence that Sam Kutesa would even dodge Parliament for many sittings, claiming he's doing foreign affairs work. I also know for sure that Rebecca Kadaga, in this term, since she was given the speakership, she has missed 15 consecutive sittings. Those ones I know. Before she writes to these ones, she's not biased. Let her write to Kadaga. So, this is not a matter of discipline of MPs. It is a matter of, in Russia they call it Okweshwe, because it's a matter of the Speaker wanting to appear to be very strong and a defender of the cabinet and not Parliament. And of course, you know, our Parliament has been degenerating in terms of quality. Even the speakers have been degenerating. You can't compare Wakapaburo, Muzei Sekandi, even Jacob Boranya with these ones. Even Kadaga with these ones. You can't compare them with these ones. We have a Kwara Parliament presided over by Kwara speakers, both the deputy and the speaker. I thought the deputy actually was measured, but there are things he does. And you say, but this is Tayebga. It's as if you go to NRM, they feed you on something that you cannot understand, your brains get upside down. Even the Anita Amonga in you. It's not this one. She can't be the one saying those things. And you want to tell me that these processes they can decide to have a sitting every day so that they get 15. They can do that. You remember how they changed the constitution? In about 2-3 weeks it was done. A bill very, very quickly. If they want it done to be done. But you see, me, I don't care. I want to ask, I'm a citizen. If Parliament closes today and doesn't operate, what will I lose in my home? I want to know exactly what Parliament is doing. That if it doesn't do, my life will be impacted. I want to know one thing they do.
There is a threat of degenerating into maybe wider anarchy for the country.
No, but a Parliament where you can enter, beat MPs Chiboko, break their bones and backs, and some of them even now have metals in their backs, like Nambos. a parliament that's not respected, a parliament where Chifes and Kadogos and all of these unwashed security people that kill people and malign them can enter the parliament in 2018, in 2017, around there, beat up MPs, arrested the some, and passed the law. Cabinet, the speaker knows what she's doing. Maybe she's scared. There is a tunnel, a whole tunnel, that moves from the president's office to parliament. Do you know that? Do you know that there is a route that allows president's office to access parliament without being checked or passing through the gate? Do you know that?
That's news to me.
Then you should know.
So you mean to say...
And that's where those who beat up MPs in 2018 passed, 2017 passed. That tunnel hasn't been closed. So she might be scared that she'll be beaten like the other people. Kadaga wrote to the president asking that she never sanctioned the beating of MPs or anybody entering parliament who entered. You remember that letter? Has it been answered? You want to call that the parliament? You want me to start discussing rules? Yet the letter of a speaker, head of a body called parliament, can write a letter to another head of a body called executive, and there's no answer.
So in your judgment, we have no parliament, and we are better off. We are better off if the speaker invokes the relevant rules.
What we have is
of parliamentary procedure.
First of all, we don't have a cabinet. We don't have a parliament. What we have is a cabal. Very few people managing Uganda how they want. You see that parliament can stand decide make something. So they can change it from Kapeka. You know that? You know that parliament can make a decision not fund Roko. But sometimes they can call. You saw how Tayabuga passed the Roko run. When they say the eyes, nobody says the eye, but the man says the eyes have it and it was passed. And billions went into. So such a parliament is not, it's rubber stamping what cabinet, what the cabal, not what cabinet, what the cabal wants.
So you wouldn't mind if the speaking exercise over authority expelled the opposition members of parliament?
I don't tell you that the speaker has no power. That is the Museveni sitting in the chair.
So you're saying the speaker is a captive of
the speaker is acting on the orders of the president. Yes.
So it is in Museveni's interest that the opposition members of parliament stay out of parliament.
It's in Museveni's interest that this report about human rights doesn't come out.
It's not published.
Yes, it's in his interest. And therefore, they must cajole MPs to come back to parliament and leave that issue because they don't want to publish.
Do you think the Speaker of Parliament is an intolerant figure?
She works for an intolerant figure. And therefore, as a representative of the intolerant figure, she has to appear as such.
So, effectively, she's captive.
Effectively, she's the personal assistant to Museveni in parliament.
She's an instrument of Museveni in parliament.
She's a personal assistant to Museveni in parliament. Yes. Like she's a personal assistant to Museveni in parliament. She must deliver what Museveni has ordered. There's no question about it.
Earlier on, she suggested that, the way these rules are designed, they are meant to facilitate orderliness and stability in parliament. You seem to fundamentally disagree with the rules. You say in the current dispensation, the rules do not serve any purpose.
Before the rules, you talk about the constitution, it's supreme. Museveni, our concern of Uganda is like Museveni's notebook. Like your notebook there. How I talk and you write. How I talk and you write. And she talks and you write. And sometimes you can rub. When Museveni wants something changed in the constitution, he will change it. Even these rules could change now. And they say 10 sittings. Even now, in the middle of this, they can change the rules. And they say now they go for retreat in Shankwanza, and he says, tells them, you go, instead of 15 is too long, make them 10. Bagende. But that's something, and Museveni wants a non-party state.
A one-party state.
He wants a one-party state. All these things, even those kidnaps and killings, are to make people fear, join his side, so that Uganda is monolithic in terms of political ideas. He doesn't want any other political idea. Now in this one, the speaker is acting on his behalf to able to achieve that in parliament. You saw Ogwanga saying, actually he's happy if they don't come back to parliament. saw him. So he believes that actually there is a problem in parliament. They have never been seen as members of parliament. They are seen as enemies of government and parliament. They have never been liked. So this pretend that have been privileges they are given the AIBCD, all those ones are just a means of trying to put a facade and put something in your eyes and ears, believe there is something they are doing. But on my part, in Uganda, forget about rules, forget about the constitution. What works is what Museveni wants. If there's a constitution that is working, like Charity said, the 18 would have been in court. Because the constitution of Uganda is very clear. 48 hours I must be in court, even if I'm a terrorist. Charged formally, a public court, taken to Ruzira, or given bail. That's it. And we shall have a case argued, and they should have a judgment in some not lengthy time. But this one here, where a general of the UPDF caliber could be gotten with his personal assistants, put in dungeons, arrested for more than 77 days, others for more than 2 years, and nobody knows the process they went through to be free. Forget about the rules. You can't play. You can't have. You have a player. You are playing 22 people. Manchester United versus Arsenal, and Gabriel Jesus is the one with cards. The referee has no cards, and you play as you play. If you play and dribble past him, says you come. Red card, and then you tell me we are playing according to the rules. There are no rules here. Forget about the rules, forget about the constitution. And people who understand that, like me, don't follow them. I don't follow rules, by the way, because they're not there. Others are breaking them every day. Like I told you before, Moses campaign.
Let me understand. Are you contending that naturally, as a person, you do not conform to any rules, or you're saying given the current dispensation and context of events,
no, I respect,
it serves no good to respect or follow, observe rules.
I respect rules and respect laws. Only in a lawful country. We are in a lawless country.
So you are an anarchist?
No, I am saying in anarchy you live like an anarchist. In order you live in order. It's in biology. It's called Darwin's theory. I mean, you must adapt. Evolution is that when you live in a place which has more sunshine, like Sudan, you must be dark, very dark, so that your skin is protected. If you live in places which have much snow and what, you can have to be white. And that is clear. If you live near an industry that is black and you fly appear black, otherwise if you appear white, the predators will eat you. So I am saying not to be eaten by the predators we have in Uganda, who I'm saying that is cabal. I am not a lawless, but I will not follow their rules because they themselves are breaking them every day.
Wow. Brian now brings in an interesting aspect to the conversation. He strongly contends that we have a deadbeat parliament, which is important, of course, being largely controlled by the NRM, the ruling party.
No, there's no party called NRM. The cabal controls it. That's why you see when Moses meets Mr. Anita Amonga and Taebga, they're almost kneeling for him because the only carries his veins carry Museveni's blood, nothing else.
The boycotting parliament is being undertaken by about 60 members of the opposition MPs.
There are more than 60.
Roughly 70.
All the NOP MPs are not there. All the Katonga FDC MPs are not there.
How many are they?
The Katonga could be 20 plus NOP plus JEMA.
JEMA has one.
Yes.
Their party president.
Plus DP about Rutamaguzi, Rurume, they are not participating. Plus UPCs, some like 4 of them. So we could be having about 80 MPs not participating in parliament.
Okay. Granted, given that estimate of the numbers, do you think it has any practical significance on the ability of Parliament to discharge its mandate?
You see, first and foremost, I have said institutions matter. Brian is saying, yes, we're in a lawless state. But for me, we have these institutions. Even when they limp, we must support them to walk. Even when they have weaknesses, we should acknowledge the weaknesses, but doesn't mean they don't have a function. I will tell you that Parliament has passed a number of laws, and they have happened to pass to help ordinary citizens. We are on this show called
Focus on Parliament.
Focus on Parliament. And it is there to strengthen the institution of Parliament. Because in constitutionalism and the rule of law, those institutions which you see, however weak they are, they must keep existing. Of course, we have seen many things which make you angry. But that doesn't mean we lose hope. Zake, when he was sent out of that house, he only got justice from the judiciary.
Have they accepted him?
Yeah, but there is a ruling, there is a precedent.
So if the ruling can't bite, what
you see, the point is not about it can't bite. Judges have sat, they have given an opinion. Once an opinion has been given by the courts, 20 years from today, 15 years from today, 2 years from today, it will influence other judicial processes. If a record is on the Hansard, it doesn't matter. As long as that record is there, it will be referenced in future. So these things are important for documentation. These things are important for systems. So let us not relegate the importance of these institutions. No matter how much they limp, you'd rather have the institution.
Are they limping?
Than when you don't have.
And if they are limping, who broke them?
Than when you don't have the institution. That will be a debate for another day.
Because the person who broke them can kill them.
What we need is to support them. Okay? We need to support them by pointing out where they are veering off the path and return them onto the correct path. That is why you have people who go to the constituency to be elected, to come as members of Parliament. In essence, if you close that Parliament, you said you want to know what would happen, it would mean there is no election in Uganda. It would mean that there is no voice of the people.
You've participated in
it would mean...
I know what I participated in.
Until now, you want to know what it would mean. It would also mean that, so we have no election, we have no voices of the people in Parliament, there is no democracy, everything has gone haywire. Article 3, which says there cannot be an overthrow by a junta, rebellion, citizens of this country should turn against people who are against the provided for process in the constitution, would now rise up. Because Article 3...
That's what I want. I am at Article 3. I am at Mwirwaneko. We must fight for free and fair elections.
Article 3 says, yes, Mwirwaneko, to have free and fair elections.
To have constitutionalism work.
But Article 3 says there is no taking government on rebellion. No. But they say, if you are a junta,
in my capacity, I use it.
If you become rebellious...
I am afraid at this point I'm going to call for a break.
You can't take power.
Our esteemed viewership, this is the Focus on Parliament show brought to you by the Civic Space TV. We now take a short commercial break. When we return, we proceed with our conversation. The topic for discussion is functioning of the 11th Parliament, a case of boycotting the MPs versus the rules. See you back shortly.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back. This is the Focus on Parliament program on Civic Space TV, brought to you by the Center for Constitutional Governance. My name is Kwagala. I am your host, and today we are discussing the topic, functioning of the 11th Parliament, a case of boycotting MPs versus the rules. Joining me is a distinguished panel composed of Mr. Brian Atuhaire, a renowned political activist, and Mrs. Charity Ahimbisibwe. She's the Executive Director for the Electoral and Governance Institute. We left it at a point of an intense disagreement between you and Brian. Whereas you are an advocate for democratic electoral processes, given the current context and also the dispensation, the political dispensation in Uganda, we did not see any strict adherence to some of the values that you espouse and promote. And yet you were arguing strongly for the preservation of the institutional capacity of Parliament. Brian, on the other hand, is saying that is of no sense, given a political system like we have here, where there is no respect for rules, like fair play. There is no respect for even the result, even the choice of the people. How do you resolve that contradiction?
So, how are governments formed? Governments are formed through a process. And that is why, for people like me who believe in the rule of law, even when we started this program, I told you I believe in the rule of law, I believe in human rights, and I believe in justice. So, in other words, for me, I don't believe in a state of lawlessness. I don't believe in a state where citizens take authority into their hands and become mob justice. Everything they do is mob justice.
But you realize we have that power under the Constitution.
No.
The Constitution, the Constitution donates that power to us.
No.
Even when a government veers off the democratic path, we can galvanize and mobilize ourselves and do whatever is necessary within the Constitution to restore the country back to the democratic path.
Yes, you restore the country back to democracy.
Yes.
You restore the country back to institutionalism. Because what is democracy? It is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. How do you govern the people? Through systems. How do you, who is the people? The very ones that you put there at all structures of government. Local governments, you have local governments in Uganda. You have LC1s. You have your MPs, your constituency MPs. You have councillors. You have sub-county chiefs. All those are structures of government. And all those are people who represent the people. And so that is how governments are formed. Governments are formed where the will of the people is represented through their representatives. Because not everybody can be a ruler. Not all 47 or 42 million Ugandans can be the MPs, they can be sub-county chiefs, they can be parish chiefs, they can be the president, they can be the vice president. They can't. They must be represented by someone. That is what democracy is. And yes, the Constitution tells you to defend it in Article 3. If there is a rebellion, if there is people mobilizing others to have a junta, that is what that constitutional clause of 3 says. Defend this constitution. Also, the constitution enjoins you to defend it in as far as democracy and good governance is concerned. So they are democratic institutions. What are they? These democratic institutions include the following. the judiciary, parliament, the executive. And all the things which are under the executive are what? Civil service, permanent secretaries, all these people, those are under the executive. That is how government is structured. So for you to say we are disrupting, then it means if you do away with those structures, you have done away with democracy. That is what I was disputing. And if you are an elitist, they like saying the elitists are the ones who have killed us. The elitists have not killed you. The elitists are saying, we don't want to go into a situation of the Gaza Strip, Israel versus Palestine. And people are saying, Israel has killed 9,000. And Palestine is saying, and Israel is saying, Palestine has sent us, who are the rebels who have said we have killed. And they are happy to say we have killed this number. And they have them in thousands. The Jews are saying, you kill us, we kill you. So it's an eye for an eye. What have they achieved? Nothing.
That's an interstate conflict.
They have failed to achieve anything. And incidentally, we are seeing more and more dead bodies. So what if we remind ourselves of our history? In all the times when people died. So you mean those people who died, they died for nothing?
But let me ask the question. Do you think this government as presently constituted reflects the will of the people? And as an advocate of democracy and good governance, is this government democratic in your judgment?
In my judgment, this government has semblances of democracy. And this is why I say it has semblance of democracy. Are there elections in Uganda? Yes. Are they regular? Yes. Do they have deficits? Yes. Deficits doesn't mean they do not exist. They are held after 5 years. Is it the citizens of Uganda who elect these leaders? Yes. Do those people just appear? Do they just wake up and announce themselves MPs? We go through processes where people campaign, where people disagree, where people say, I was cheated, but the process is there. You cannot deny the fact that the process is there. If that process was not there, it would be a different debate. But the process is there. Now, what do we need? We need to improve the process, not destroy the process. That is what I am saying. So do we have a legitimate process? Maybe not legitimate, but the process exists.
Brian, what would be your retort to her judgment of the
we have
issue?
We have a water house, used mud, grass thatched house, right? What we want is a permanent building, or we want a flat. I am telling my friend that we cannot add on that water house because it's unattainable. You will not get a manyatta and transform it into a flat without dismantling it. But because people have lived in this grass-thatched house, this water house, for a very long period of time, they feel they must maintain it. They are maintaining the knowledge of 1930 of driving a tuk-tuk rather than having a Benz. You can't transform a tuk-tuk to a Benz. A Benz is a Benz, a tuk-tuk is a tuk-tuk. What we have is a tuk-tuk, and for us, we want to move in a Benz. We either sell it away or give it to scrap, they take it away and we buy another one. That's what she's saying, that we can add on what we have. We're not saying we are sleeping outside, but the house is leaking. And even if you put iron sheets there, they'll be so heavy that the house itself collapses. So I'm saying we must dismantle this house. But that one, I'm using a building language so that maybe everybody understands what I'm saying. But she said that if we support what I'm suggesting, we shall create mobs. We can end up like Hamas, we can end up like Hezbollah. We can end up forgetting that
it's a catalyst for anarchy.
Forgetting that where there is unfairness, because the Hamas in Palestine have been occupied for many years, they had to react. Even Ugandans who can keep quiet, maybe not in my lifetime, maybe my children, maybe going to, they will react. The ANC in South Africa was occupied. They fought until they got more angry, and the MK movement held, not this MK here, the MK of South Africa, this held by Mandela, which was the youth league of the ANC then. They said, no, we must hold guns and fight. They held guns and fought. The result was arresting them, yes, put them in prison for more than 27 years. Some of them died there. But the result of that holding of guns resulted into Africans being allowed to vote. If they had done it earlier, they would have had that independence, not in 1994, maybe as 1950, before Mandela was even old. But the people of their times remain debating amongst themselves the way Charity is debating. We are in a country where family rule is taking root, not democratic rule. You have said that we shall become, then another thing about mobs, our military. The citizens have been made to be peaceful and behave like the way we are behaving. The military, the police, the prisons, actually a mob against the citizens. We have, our military is our mobs made a mob against us. And for us, we are being told not to be mobs, to keep quiet and surrender to their brutality. And what they are doing is what they do as the mobs is what Charity thinks is protecting institutions in Uganda. And she wants me to go with her in protecting them because that's subduing us and becoming silent and putting us in corners and remaining there as we clap for parliament, clap for cabinet, whether they have killed our people or not. And because we want to remain orderly is what, because we want the state to remain, we don't want to become stateless. Nobody's saying, by the way, I'm not saying we should become stateless. I am saying we must have a state where guns are also under people. You can control, where gun rule is, where guns are controlled by civilians, civilian power is above guns. Not where guns are above civilian power, because that's what you fight for.
That's fair.
Help us to practically understand that, because in the Constitution dictates that the armed forces of Uganda are supposed to be subordinate to civilian authority.
Yes.
Now, in practical terms,
yes.
What are you suggesting?
That's what I'm saying. As it is in the Constitution, it has been
overturned.
That's why a prayer at any headquarters cannot happen. They rather bring SFC, get Senyonyi, get Jower, get Ruongoya, and Rock Bobby Wine. Now, so it means civilians are under, if you don't believe in the gun rule, the guns overtake you. So we are held hostage by guns. And that's what I want to tell her. The election talks about that elected the current government. We had guns kill 54 people according to government statistics. That one is not disputed. We have 18 missing. I don't know where they are. Out of the election. Now the election in Uganda is a war zone. When the elections were actually at war. So the pretense that there are campaigns is not true. How many times was Bobi Wine arrested in the campaigns? Do you know them? How many times was Besigye arrested in the campaigns? Do you know them? Do you know how many people arrested? We are talking about, actually, these things we are discussing here. She said, Electoral Laws Simanyi Institute. Now that one. We don't have, and you want me to call them elections. Elections where people are injured, because elections will be where people freely express themselves, and the will read in the ballot paper is read and announced. The moment that doesn't happen, then it wasn't an election.
But that is the ideal.
Now, that's the ideal.
Yes.
No, that's not the ideal. It is what it should be.
Yes.
What I'm fighting for, I've been telling
what should be is the ideal.
I'm telling you.
But I think what Brian is saying, the Constitution has a certain expectation of a standard.
Yes.
And his reasoning that consistently we have failed to live up to that standard.
And I'm not in dispute.
We can't remain doing unconstitutional things, claiming they are constitutional.
Correct.
Because an election should be free and fair.
Correct.
We have not had a free and fair election. Actually,
So because we've not had free and fair elections, what does the Constitution say? When you don't have free and fair elections, what do?
You go to court.
Exactly.
And when you go to court, what is there?
And when you go to court,
Whose
what
courts
does
are they?
court say?
Court can annul an election.
Exactly. But in our instance, what happened?
Are you saying this 2026?
Leave alone 2021. In previous elections, what happened?
No. Court in 2001 declared that elections were not free and fair. But that the unfairness was also substantial enough to overturn the election.
And that is your court, it is your judicial system.
No.
So they gave remedies. They gave remedies.
Which were what?
Which have never been implemented.
That's all right. That's all right.
Hey.
That's all right. But there is a statement they made.
So we conform.
Are you saying we conform to that standard?
I'm not saying you conform.
What do we do?
I'm saying the judiciary, the judiciary pronounced itself and said, for us to proceed on elections in Uganda, these reforms must take place. In 2001, they pronounced themselves, and in 2016, they pronounced themselves. Government has not been able to respect what the judiciary said. What you need to do as citizens is to pressurize the executive.
How? By what?
You're on a talk show right now. What are you doing?
Now you incline.
What are you doing?
You incline to his position.
No.
Because that's all along.
I want to show you.
It appears that
the thing, my dispute with Brian is for us to degenerate into a war. I do not believe in war.
Have I heard any gun?
I do not agree into statelessness. No. I do not agree into a situation where our institutions are not functioning. Why? Because we have a country like Tanzania. Are they democratic or they are not democratic? Do they have rules? Do they have regulations? Do they have a standard they have set for themselves? How much did they go through to reach where they are? We have a country like Kenya, where we have seen protests happening in Kenya. Yes, the Constitution gives you a right to a peaceful assembly.
Can I have it?
To protest. It even gives you a right to protest.
Can you protest in Uganda today?
What have the members of parliament done? Aren't they protesting?
Someone could reason that perhaps, number one, they are a privileged class, but also second, as you know, the right to protest is being challenged.
Yes, the right to
by
protest.
the leadership of parliament itself.
The right to protest is also being curtailed by the military, which is talking about. And because the military and the police and those within the military and the police who have not understood how the rule of law works and what they are supposed to do to defend their state
how would they understand
there by you speaking out. That is why you're on this show, by you telling them.
From you cited
2001, 2016.
Yes. From that period up to the present, there have been so many talk shows where citizens have convened to discuss these issues and also express their frustration to government. Actually, you are a member of the civil society. I know this is a very big question for you. In 2016, where they came up with the Citizens Compact.
Yes.
The document that I think reduced the expectations
of the citizens.
In the way they wanted the election process to look like. All those things have been consistently disregarded by the government. Even the standard, which is set in our constitution, has been abused grossly.
Correct.
And here we are again. So, given the situation, would you still hold the same view?
So, if you have an abusive father, do you wake up tomorrow and kill him?
You leave the home. Or you call him and tell him, Dad, that's wrong.
Exactly. You leave the home or you call him and tell him that is wrong. And this is what we are doing here. We are calling them out by saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Leave the home, you still have a choice. We have people who are still going into asylum. Those who cannot stand the heat go into asylum and organize from outside. But, and I'm not defending the government. I'm not. I am saying we have institutions We have some few things that still exist. Can we work within those things that exist until when they are taken away by maybe an organic process or an unorganic process? Brian says the inevitable will happen. And I don't want to dismiss him. I don't dismiss him. Because I said we have ghosts. The reason why we have a preamble in that constitution that says recalling our violent history.
Which we've replicated.
Of bloodshed.
Which we are replicating today.
We, the people of Uganda, today come up with a constitution. We put those words there to remind us of our history. Because people cannot go into the future without their history. And right now where we are is a delicate time where so many things are not going right. Everybody seems disgruntled about something. But if everything is not going right, I asked the question, do you kill your father? He said no. And I agree. And so our father is who? The Constitution. Our father is who? It is the structures that Constitution has put in. We don't kill him. We either decide as a people to set him at the side and we start a new one, or we call him out and say, you people who are supposed to follow this constitution are not following it, which is what we are doing. Yes, we have not been heard. Yes, nothing has been done, but there is record. There is record. The people who will do whatever they will do beyond what we have done. We remember, this one said this, Brian said this one said this one said this. We can start here and proceed like this. Even to create the 1995 Constitution, we had to go back onto the 1962 Constitution, and we had to go back into the 1966 and the 1967 Republican Constitution. If we didn't have the 62, the 66 and 67, then the 1995 would have had issues. But for us to create this 1995 Constitution, we went back into those constitutions. So what we are saying is not irrelevant. Let us not lie to ourselves. It is not irrelevant. It's not a waste of time. There will be something that will show up from there.
Brian, let us revisit the issue of the rules, even when you are not a believer in the parliamentary processes as currently constituted. Now, the Speaker yesterday said that the members of opposition who are undertaking the protest and the boycott have an obligation to write to her and explain sufficiently why they are absent from plenary. She adds that whoever does not comply with that directive is going to be the subject of punitive disciplinary actions against them. Given the trajectory of this crisis, do you see this a possibility? Or you think the opposition is resolute in its stand to defy the Speaker and continue with its protest?
You see, the moment you said they're defying the Speaker, you're wrong. They're defying injustice. Is the Speaker the face of injustice? If yes, she should be defied. If no, she should be neutral. These are the things that, because now the Speaker is making it personal. No. When they started quarreling with the Parliament about it, she was not there. She was on maternity leave.
But she's the Speaker.
No.
She's back.
See, the Speaker is not a human being. The Speaker should be a chair. You see, the moment you register the Speaker is a human being, then you're finished. Anita, my friend, Anita Among, Anit, A.
Triple A.
Triple A cannot claim that the Banjoga in Uganda. They are saying whether you are the Speaker, who's the Speaker, presiding over this house, we shall not return to the house unless government, not you. First of all, they are not accusing her anywhere.
Yeah, it is an institution.
They are choosing cabinet. Cabinet sits in Parliament. it must give an answer. Minister of Defense is there, Minister of Security is there, Minister of... they are there.
And she's just supposed to call them.
She's just supposed to call them to give. There's the Prime Minister who claimed, a Prime Minister claimed that she knows what Chibarama is. She said Chibarama was one of the people who was killing people around this place in Ruwero, and she knows where Chibarama is. So, those are the people who should be asking those questions so that Parliament comes back to normal.
Exactly, because
Simple.
even the leader of opposition said, if she knows,
secondly,
then let her tell us.
They have not said, the report must say that people are alive. You can say, actually, we killed them. Hey, we killed them. We can't produce them because in the execution, maybe they died. Maybe of sickness, then bring postmortem and attach. Then you say, this is the report. For her to feel that it is her they are targeting, she's wrong.
Exactly.
She has made it personal, which is not true. Even if I was the Speaker of Parliament, they would ask me. Even if were you, they would still ask you. And actually, everybody should ask the Speaker to tell these guys to give a report. That's one. Two, the Speaker of Parliament makes it a mistake to appear very sided. Because a Speaker is a chair. If you're a chair of a meeting and you want to participate, you can't vote first. Actually, that's why committees form 11 people. Because you allow the people to vote. When they tie, you are allowed to take a side. When they have tied, but for you as a chair, you can't vote. And when they vote, whichever side is vote, whether you supported it or not, you go with it because you have acted impartially in the management of the meeting. And that's therefore, even then, the ones who are hurt, you can call them and say, you guys, because they know you were fair to them. Now, you cannot be there and your father in the house and your two sons are fighting, you don't know what they're fighting for, and you're hounding one out of the house. You can't. That's another one. But what else I want to mention that we always overlook and take for granted is the power of protest. She's not saying these things because she's happy herself. She's stranded. Museveni has put her in a very, very tight corner and has put a basin there. She can't breathe. She's you know when you get the young chicks and you put them in one place and you put a basin. They can't see, they are confused, they can't even, they're just there. Even a big cork can be put under a basin. So the speaker, William Museveni has gotten a basin and put it on the speaker. So the speaker is trying to see how the basin goes off and the basin has become a problem. And that's how she's uttering, those utterings are happening.
I like Brian's illustration.
That's an interesting analogy, but away from
and it's a reality.
I can assure you, I know. I have known Anita. I knew Anita when she was on FDC. She has been my friend sometimes. Even when she joined the independent, I've not seen her when she was speaker.
Are you convinced that she's still the same person?
I am convinced that you see when you're eating with Satan, you cannot use a teaspoon. You use a rado. Because the rado is longer. Now, in this case, Anita uses the teaspoon and the Satan has it has her. She's stranded. Already she's there. So she has to have the tunes of the one who captured her. I understand.
Let us for a moment let go the person of the speaker. Let us spotlight the person of the president as the executive authority in this country. Is the person who ultimately bears the responsibility to ensure that this country is governed well in accordance with the democratic principles as espoused in the Constitution. What do you think is the attitude of the president in this whole crisis?
You see, the president went on a press conference and said that he had allowed his commanders without uniform to enter Kampala and he killed 54 people. Did he say it? Didn't you hear him? So even the 18 could be added to these ones. Museveni doesn't care. He thinks that maybe we are pigs. And like he calls rebels pigs, even the opposition is pigs. And he sees them as enemies. That is that's his idea. If he can't buy you, an enemy. And so with that thinking of wanting to kill citizens because they don't support him, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. If you ask him these questions, he would not answer you. He said in 2011 that he would swallow people in like message like samosa. That's what he said. That's what he said. He said he would finish opposition.
And hasn't he actually swallowed?
Yes,
like
okay. But you say wanting to swallow people like samosa, you want to finish. He was finished using money and using guns and killing. But until ballots become stronger than bullets, we are in shit. We should have problems. I have been talking to my border guys when I'm moving into Goa in Kurambiro. They say our roads are bad. So I've told them in Uganda that it's between Uganda, Awangura, Siafuga. What we are fighting for is that Awangude Afuge. That's what that the one who wins doesn't govern. So before we fight for roads, hospitals, we must fight first that the one who wins governs. Because if he wins and governs, he's there because of you. Museveni is informed that his way is because of his guns, not because of your votes that this woman is talking about. He's aware that he rather loses elections rather than lose guns. Because of that mentality and that attitude, that's why they are making people suffer the way they are suffering. And people like Charity want to play it down and cool and say it's okay, their process is no. The first process is disempowering, is the gun being disempowered, the gun being under civilian rule. That's why the president can't be serving military officer. But now Museveni has gotten military officers illegally, made them ministers. So even in cabinet, we have military officers in parliament that they are voted by the army. Do you have there of the police? Do you have there those ones of the prisons? Or Uganda Wildlife Authority? But the ones of UPDF are there to subdue, to scare civilian members of parliament that you vote for, quote in quotes. And these things, when discussed, they're discussed casually. So before parliament starts, Museveni has 10 MPs. 10. Before you start even the votes this man is talking about, before you go to vote, Museveni has 10 loyal MPs from UPDF. Before any voting starts, before you cast the first vote, Museveni has 10 members of parliament. Have you ever thought about it? Or it's normal they are army representatives. No. And the way they are chosen, at first they would choose them from the high command. 10. In CA had maybe about 195 members of parliament. He had 10 of UPDF, had 10 special nominees, 20 before one.
They are a special interest group.
No. No, the youth were there as youth. Okwira Bono was voted. That group of people, I think Okwira Bono. No, I think by then they were not there. They were there after the constitution. But people from the constitution, Museveni had there 20 before votes were casted in constituencies. So he could control parliament. From then, he has eaten into it, captured. And people have been telling, someone talked about it, and now you see what's happening. I hear the next parliament, they're going to put 40 new constituencies. We shall have 600 MPs. They'll be cows. You want to know who is an MP?
Charity, let me come to you. In the architecture of constitutional democracy, Parliament is a central organ of the state. It is Parliament that has the fundamental responsibility to make legislation, to also serve as an accountability instrument, a primary accountability instrument for the state. But also it is in Parliament where the views of the population are tabled and discussed. And then if there are challenges, it's a forum to resolve and prescribe solutions to those issues. That mandate is well captured under Article 79 of our Constitution. In your assessment, do you think the 11th Parliament has lived up to the expectation of the Constitution in that respect?
I don't think they have lived up to the expectation. They have walked a difficult rope. They are at 50-50, or even maybe they are at 30-60, 40-60. That they've not worked according to that mandate 60%, and they've worked up to that mandate 40%. Why? Because like you've said, in appropriation, have they done their work to appropriate? Yes. Do they come up with budgets? Yes. But how is the process in coming up with those budgets? And who apportions? And is it fair? Is it reflective of the people's voices and what the people want? Maybe not. That takes it then to the 40. Then they have the legislation. This parliament has passed, I think, the biggest number of acts. And that's their primary role. So in terms of if it is to tick the boxes, then they've done. They've passed. That one at 60. But what is there, and then representing the people's voices, that one is at 40. That's why I told you there is 40-60. It's at 40. They have not represented the people's voices. When the people tell them what they want, they do not listen to the people's voices. They choose to do what they feel is good for within the time in which they are passing a legislation or apportioning a budget. And they don't listen to the people's voices. And so the people are left in confusion. So yes, the institution of parliament is a central dialogue body. Parliament simply means a place of dialogue. And the institution of parliament has all types of people, characters, who are elected from the population. They represent the population and how the population views and thinks about issues. And the bigger work that needs to happen in our country is to keep enlightening the citizens. Citizens need to be raised in terms of awareness and knowledge and understanding of the role of parliament, of the role of an MP, of the rules, regulations, laws, and norms of Uganda.
Sorry, if I may interject just on that point. Who bears that responsibility?
The Uganda Human Rights Commission, under Article 52.
To conduct civic education and awareness?
Yes.
To empower the citizens with the relevant knowledge?
Yes.
And understanding of their governance processes and systems?
And raise, because citizens under Article 38 are mandated to participate in the governance and public affairs of their country. The only way they do that is through civic education. Civic education is supposed to make them understand what are your duties, what are your responsibilities, what are your rights, what is going wrong, how do we resolve it. And the amalgamation of the views of the citizens are supposed to cause national conversations on how to resolve the issues that we find difficult. As long as civic education doesn't take place, a big chunk of our arm of democracy is dead. Actually, one of the start points for the government, a good start point, would be to strengthen that institution of Uganda Human Rights Commission. Release a sufficient budget, which Parliament has not done. That you've asked me, so Parliament, in appropriating a budget, if every time they're appropriating, they looked at the needs of the people. One of the needs of the people in this instance would be civic education. That was ruled on by the judges in 2001. It was ruled on by the judges in 2016. and it has been ignored by the government. But the government, now that we pick a stick for it, should look at strengthening the Uganda Human Rights Commission with the budget, with facilitation, and with apt membership that can carry the citizen mandate.
Brian, as we conclude, what's your assessment of the 11th Parliament's performance, given its constitutional mandate and its broader responsibility to the Ugandan public?
I can never blame Parliament. I can't blame a person who is tied, and then they're beating, then they're whipping them, then they can't fight back.
And they're undefensive.
And because as we speak, not only this Parliament, Museveni was using 680 million shillings in 2018, but he has increased 2 billion shillings every day as of today. And Parliament can do nothing about it. Even if they wanted to appropriate to lower, he had Semuju try to cut down how much Museveni spends per second. It is enough for me for a day. So that's where we are. So, like I said, we must restructure Parliament, have a Parliament called the Parliament, structure governance, structure, even have a constitutional review and maybe a new constitution. But to think that the way things are, start judging very knowledgeable people who are in Parliament and the dense ones, and judging them whether they are performing well, you can't perform under this environment.
As you close, what's your parting shot?
That the people of Uganda should know, and should know by their knowledge, and should be active, and they should take up responsibility to fight their country, to remove it from the fangs of the military junta that captured Uganda.
Thank you, Mr. Brian Atuhaire. Yes, Charity, what's your
My
parting
shot is that appropriation to institutions of government should increase vis-a-vis appropriation to individual arms of government. These institutions were established to promote the rule of law and good governance, and that is where the gap, the deficit is.
Thank you, our esteemed viewership. We've been discussing the topic, functioning of the 11th Parliament, the case of boycotting MPs vis-a-vis the rules. I've been joined by a renowned political activist, Mr. Brian Atuhaire Batenda, and Mrs. Charity Ahimbisibwe, the ED for Electoral Laws and Governance Institute. Thank you so much, our dear panelists, for that insightful conversation, and also to our production team. We appreciate you. This has been the Focus on Parliament program on the Civic Space TV, brought to you by the Center for Constitutional Governance. My name is Kwagala. We encourage you, our viewers, to engage with us on our various social media platforms, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, and you can also subscribe and follow our YouTube channel. Thank you once again. Very good morning.